All right, today we're taking a look at Marc Spector, Moon Knight, Omnibus, Volume 1. That's right, guys. So chances are we're going to get a Volume 2, and now this will be really interesting because I've heard the second half of this series, Marc Spector, is horrible. So I'm actually really excited to check that out one day. But anyway, this collects Moon Knights, issues 1 to 34, and then Amazing Spider-Man 353 to 358, which is Round Robin. It's a series that Moon Knight is guest starring in. We also have Moon Knight Divided We Fall and material from Punisher Annual 1988 number 2. And this omnibus is really a three-part in my view. This omnibus collects stories from mostly the late 80s to the early 90s and is a revival for the series. After the original series ended, in the first two omnibuses, we had Moon Knight go over to the West Coast Avengers for a while. So this was his first solo series since the original, and well, let's talk about it. The first 25 issues, which is a large chunk of this omnibus, is written by Chuck Dixon, or he was going by Charles Dixon. Don't know why he changed his name. Anyway, this was Marc Spector back as a superhero whooping some ass. And this is mostly the typical superhero book with a snappy Mark just spitting out lines like an action hero while taking down bad guys. And it's just not the same Moon Knight vibe that I've come to expect from the first two omnibuses. And in a way, it's probably a positive in terms of trying to capture a new audience. Repeating an old run without having the same vibes, if you cannot match that, would ruin it. And I'm not saying that I don't like Dixon stuff, but I read a lot of his stuff, and I believe he is a solid entertainment writer, meaning he writes fun superhero romps even if they're kind of hollow in the end. Just like his Nightwing or his Batman run, Dixon lets Marks have fun being a superhero. He's whooping ass, he's taking names, he's a little sexist with Marlene because, well, you know, of course, don't have to research much to see where Chuck Dixon is nowadays and who he's writing with, but I'll say the political stuff from one of those other days. The writing here is solid enough to carry these stories, even if they hold, you know, a little to no weight. We know what will happen every issue. Moon Knight will survive. There's no really big twist or turns. I will say, however, I do think that Chuck Dixon, I'm going to call him that because that's what I know him by from Nightwing and Batman, really does do a good job with bringing in new characters for sidekicks. And I will say that Jeff as Midnight was a really fun character. He's the son of a criminal that Moon Knight took down prior, and now he wants to learn from Moon Knight how to be a hero. He's rash, he's spontaneous, and of course he makes a lot of mistakes, leading to some really fun stories. So that part of the run, that subplot, actually works really well and does lead into a kind of major crossover later, which we will get to. Then, like some miracle, in comes J.M. DeMatteis, and with a 6-part story arc called Scarlet's Redemption, and it is wonderful. It's dark, it's twisted, filled with excellent imagery at times, and just a broken man / woman storyline. When Scarlet returns, she's not the same that she was in the previous stories from the 80s, but instead a woman who can seem to find herself and seek something or someone to stop these thoughts that are roaming in her head. And on the flip side, you have Mark, who's actually trying to be a better person, help people, even though he is used to violence, and that's what he knows. He's trying to be better, leaving these two to eventually come head to head in an unexpected way, but also letting Mark grow tremendously as a character. This story harkens back to that tone and vibe of Doug's run, and oh man, this was a treat. I loved every moment of this arc, and it really boosted the volume up, and I would almost say it's as good as Volume 1, if not as good. And then in comes Hobgoblin, and it's still solid. This is only a 2-issue arc, but it was really fun to watch Moon Knight and Spidey have to team up to stop an insane bastard that also links back to Mark's backstory. This was a solid story. And if the omnibus ended on that, which I kind of wish it did, this would kind of probably end up at a 3.5, maybe at a 4, because that really, Scarlet's Redemption really impressed me. But then in came Round Robin. Oh my God, this overly long team-up event starring Spider-Man, Punisher, Nova, Night Thrasher, and eventually Moon Knight, a few issues in, brings back Jeff. That's right, Jeff, the guy that I said is an interesting character. Well, they bring back Jeff in the most uninteresting, shittier done Winter Soldier way, and really this team-up is just overly written. It's not fun. It nearly put me to sleep, not once, but guess what, guys? Twice. It felt like grown man just playing with action figures and trying to have them have a cohesive story. Listen, a few cool pages of team-ups is not going to make me enjoy this fucking slog of a piece of shit story. Anyway, sadly, those last 6 to 7 issues are pretty bad. They're a slog to read, and nobody wanted to read them. Saying that, Dixon Run is solid superhero flair. I would say it's similar to all his other superhero stuff. It's good, but it's never great. The redemption arc is insanely good and a true spiritual successor to Doug's run. So with that, I'm going to have to give this overall book a 3 out of 5 because Dixon's run, I probably end up around a 2.5, 3 out of 5, and then the redemption arc a 5 out of 5, and then that piss poor round robin piece of shit story at the end, maybe a 1.5 out of 5, only because there were a couple of panels of really cool team-up moments, but the rest of the story was just garbage. So overall, I'm going to give this entire omnibus a 3 out of 5. If you enjoyed Moon Knight so far, I think you should pick this up. I think it's, another Moon Knight omnibus, so if you like the character, you're going to enjoy it enough to, well, enjoy it, but I don't think it's quite as good as Volume 1 or even Volume 2, if I'm being honest. So, with that, it's worth it if you like Moon Knight, but don't expect greatness except for that excellent redemption arc. I hope you guys liked this video. Hit the like button. If you loved it, well, hit the subscribe button. I got more videos like this coming out. And everybody else, well, have a wonderful day.